Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and hello to all of you. This is the lecture for chapter 8, that is management, control system, transfer pricing and multinational consideration. At this lecture or presentation, I'm going to divide my presentation into three main parts. The first one, I'm going to explain about management control system as well as the structure of the organization, where we are going to look at decentralization structure in the multinational corporation. The second part is about transfer pricing and multinational consideration. Right, so the first part is about management control system. This management control system is actually a means of gathering and using information to aid and coordinate the planning and control decisions. So the point, as long as you look at this, it is management control system. So whatever system that will be used for the purpose of control, right? For the purpose of planning and control, because this is what actually the main aim in the management accounting, actually, for planning and for control. That's the main function. Alright, so the company use management control system to gather the information and help in terms of planning as well as the control, basically because they want to use the information to guide the behavior of its managers and other employees. In other words, the purpose is for the evaluation, right? So they get the information, use it for the purpose of planning and control, because they want to evaluate the behavior and the performance of their managers or department. Some companies design their management control system using balanced scorecard, that we already learned in previous chapter. And the well-designed management control system use information from both within the company as well as outside the company. So this is something that we already looked before, where we understand that for balanced scorecard, for example, we look at the information inside the company, like the internal process, and we also look at the outside of the company, for example, look at the market share, about the customer's preference, etc., etc. Right? So this management control system, not just balanced scorecard, it also can be, other form. For example, like just in time is also one form of management control system. Certain company they use total quality management, TQM, so it is also one form of management control system, and many more. This management control system, it can be formal or informal. The formal management control system can include explicit rules, procedures, performance measures, incentive plans that guide the behavior of its managers. And the formal control system is composed of several systems, for example, like the management accounting system, which provide information about firm's cost, revenue and income. It also can be the human resource system. It also can be the quality system, which provides information about yield, defective products, and late deliveries to customers. So it can be varied. So whatever system in the company that for the purpose of actually planning and control and evaluation, we can call it as a management control system. And here are basically the example. Some company use total quality management, some company use balanced scorecard, some company use Kaizen, ABC, JIT, incentive system, and etc. Alright, so all of this can be considered as formal form of management control system. And it also, in certain situation where company use informal management control system, which includes, for example, the shared values, the loyalties, mutual commitments among members of the organization, the culture of the company. You know, certain company, they have a good culture. For example, they are very punctual, they really respect their members, they share a good value within the organization, empathy, sympathy, always reminding each other to do the best in their work, for example. That is also a part of management control system, but it's not in the formal form. Alright, so, and the unwritten norms about acceptable behavior of the managers and other employees. So basically, in our life also, we have this kind of system where, but it might be, you know, like informal, where we actually plan for the work. You, for example, you, in the preparation of your exam, you make some kind of planning and control and evaluation of your progress, for example. So it is like very personal one, and it is in the form of very informal style. So this management control system actually, as I said before, something that been designed to help company to plan and control and evaluate, make sure that whatever they have done are actually aligned with the organization aim and objective, basically. Alright, what does it mean by effective management control system? To be effective, management control system should be closely aligned with the strategies and goals. I hope you still remember about the strategy I explained during the balanced scorecard topic, where strategy can be in the forms of cost leadership or product differentiation. Alright, so the management control system should also be designed to support the organizational responsibilities of individual managers, and it also must be aligned with the organization's structure. So the structure can be decentralized or centralized. Okay, this is something we are going to look at after this. An organization with decentralized structure will have different issues to consider when designing its management control system than a firm with centralized structures. So both of them, decentralized and centralized, they have benefit and cost for each of them. And in a corporation, when they want to use centralized or decentralized style of organization structure, it is important for them to consider the cost and benefit of each of them and the suitability with the context of their business. Effective management control system should also motivate managers and other employees. So the management control system that has been chosen by the company is supposed to be something that can help managers to improve their motivation. And motivation is actually the desire to attain a selected goal, that is goal congruence concept, combined with the resulting pursuit of that goal, that is an effort space. So effort aspect. So motivation actually focus on two main aspects. That is, the first one is goal congruence, and the second one is actually an effort. So motivation, in the sense that goal congruence exists when individuals and groups work toward achieving the organization goal. That is, managers working in their own best interests for the benefit to make sure the success of the organization, not just his own success. Alright, that is number one. Means that all the individuals, all the managers, all of the employees, when they work in the company, they have an aim to improve the performance of the company, to achieve or attain success for the company. Effort is the extent to which managers strive or endeavor in order to achieve a goal. Effort goes beyond physical exertion to include mental actions as well. So efforts actually, you know, something that what the employees struggle for. So if they have a good motivation, then the efforts will come. You know, they will struggling, they are willing to work hard beyond the office hour, for example, because they really want to achieve success for the organization. So that's basically what the motivation can do with the performance and behavior of the employee. Alright, now we look at the structure of the organization. As I said before, we have two types of structure in the organization. One is what we call as centralized, and the second one is decentralized. Alright, so in the centralized system, all powers are on top management, while in the decentralized system, the power actually will be allocated, the power to make decision will be distributed or allocated to the subunit. Means that the power is not concentrated to the top management only, right? Now we're going to look at some aspect of decentralization. Decentralization is an organizational structure that gives managers lower levels the freedom to make decisions. So, as I said before, decentralized, they give more power for the managers at the lower level to be able to make decision. The autonomy, that is the degree of freedom to make decision, in decentralization it is higher. Means that the managers, the lower level managers, they have more power to make decision, and they don't really need to be in contact with the top management once they want to make decisions. Certain decisions, they have been given power to make decision by their own, right? This decentralization, actually, it has benefits and costs. It has some advantage and also some disadvantages. So the benefits of decentralization, which includes greater responsiveness to the need of the subunit. Because why? Because the lower level managers also can make decision. We don't need to wait for the meeting at the top management before we can come up with any decision. All right, and it also will lead to faster decision making by the subunit managers, and it's also assist management development and learning. Like those lower level managers, they can learn more and try to be independent in their work and make them more knowledgeable, actually not just depending on the decision or advice from the top management. It will sharpen the focus of subunit managers and broaden the reach of top management. So the focus is higher in the subunit managers, basically, because it seems that the role is now become more important for the subunit managers or low-level managers for them to make a decision. Alright, so decentralization also subject to disadvantages. For example, like because the decisions are made by the low-level managers, sometimes the decision is not that optimal. Okay, so the decision is not that optimal in the sense that it seems that sometimes it is possible where once the managers, they make the decision, it only focus towards their own subunit only. Alright, so that kind of decision might be beneficial just for one subunit only, but might have another effects towards the performance of the overall organization or company. Right, so because as I said before, they make their own decisions. Sometimes the decision that they make is not an optimal, or this might be like happen due to incongruent decision making or dysfunctional decision making that happen in this style of organizational structure. Secondly, because since they have in decentralization style, they have many subunit. Okay, so they have subunit 1, subunit 2, subunit 3, and each of the subunit has been given a power for them to make decision. Right? So each of them obviously wants to make decision that benefit with their own department or subunit, and this will eventually later on, because they have been given a power for them to make decision their own, sometimes it will lead to unhealthy competition between the department or between the subunit, and it may also lead to the duplication in terms of output and duplication in terms of activities, because since that they can make their own decisions, sometimes their decision might be the same products or same output might be similar between two different department or different alternative. So that's the problem when we have decentralized style of the organization structure. I remember my own personal case in regards to decentralization. Sometimes as a lecturer, we give students, their assignment, and sometimes we set the assignment for each group, for example. In that case, it is something like a centralized style where we will divide, students into groups, and each groups will be assigned with a specific topic, and that's their responsibility to fulfill the job or the assignment that has been assigned to them. All right, that is centralized. But in the decentralized style, where sometimes we give them, like they can choose, whatever topic that they like for the presentation, for example. And if we use this decentralized style where students can choose their own topic, it is very likely that there will be a duplication of output and activities. For example, they were likely to choose the same topic because they are, has been bounded by the same resources. So normally at the end of the day, we can see that many groups will have a similar topic, and the output and activities that they are conducted are similar. So this is basically among the problems once we do decentralized style of how we give an assignment to the student. Alright, although decentralization have their own benefit and costs, multinational corporations, however, of course, in favor of decentralization because they have many branch in various countries. So multinational corporations are actually a company that run a business in various countries. For example, they have their headquarters might be in the United States, but they also run the same operation in Malaysia, in China, in India. So because of the nature of the country where they have to deal with different countries, it is impossible for them to use centralized system, but rather they use decentralized because it is really helpful for them to run the operation because their subunits are actually around the world. So to do decentralization is much more helpful in their business. Decentralization, it will allow managers in different countries to make decisions that exploit their knowledge of the local business and political conditions and enable them to deal with uncertainties in their individual environment. So for example, like this is the company where they have a headquarters in the United States, and they use decentralization where managers in Malaysia, actually a Malaysian can make a decision for Malaysian. Managers in China make a decision for the business in China. Managers in India, they make a decision for their business in India. This is because these managers, which come from their own original country, they understand the system, they understand the politics, they understand the government, they understand the governance, law, whatever system that has been implied in the country, the cultural preference, etc., etc. So it is better for the managers in each of the countries, they make their own decision, rather than we wait for the managers in the United States where they might not be exposed with the condition, with the environment, with the business style, with the business ethics in Malaysia, China, and India for them to make decisions. So that's why decentralization is much more helpful in multinational corporation. But still, there is a problem of loss or lack of control, and the resulting risks, might happen because of the decentralization, as we discussed before. And this multinational corporation that implement decentralized decision making usually design their management control system to measure and monitor the performance of each of the divisions. So although the HQ or the headquarters is in the United States, but still they will monitor the performance for the operations in Malaysia, in China, in India, and other countries in the world using the suitable management control system in the company. Alright, now we look at the transfer pricing. Transfer pricing is the price one subunit, that is department or division, charges for a product or service supplied to another subunit in the same organization. For example, let's say there is a division A and division B. Division A supply products or service to division B, alright, and yes, they will charge for such products or service. So this price, alright, this is what we call as transfer pricing. So, and it is very normal for division B to provide service or products to division A, and there will also price that will be charged for this, and this price also we call it as the transfer pricing. Alright, because it is the price of one subunit charge for a product or service that been given to another department in the organization. In decentralized organization, much of the decision-making power resides in the individual subunits. Those subunits often supply goods or services to one another. Like this, for example, they provide goods and services for different departments. In that case, top management uses transfer price to coordinate the action of the subunits and to evaluate the performance of the managers. The transfer price creates revenue for the selling subunit and purchase cost for the buying subunit. For example, Division A provide service to Division B. So once they provide service to Division B will make some payment. So that particular payment will be a part of the revenue for Division A. The operating incomes can be used to evaluate the subunit performance and to motivate their managers. So at the end of the day, we're going to calculate about this operating incomes. The intermediate products, that is the product or service transferred between subunit of the organization. That is A transferred to B. For example, certain products, that is what we call as intermediate products. In a well-designed transfer pricing system, managers focus on maximizing the performance of their subunits, and doing so, it will optimize the performance of the company as a whole. So, as in this case, in a well-designed transfer pricing system, if the managers focus on maximizing the performance of their subunit or their division, it will basically help to improve the performance of the overall organization as well. Alright, now we look at the criteria for evaluating transfer pricing. And to help company achieve its goal, transfer prices should meet 4 criteria. It should promote goal congruence. It should help managers to invest more effort, and it helps top managers to evaluate the performance of the individual subunit, as well as in order to preserve autonomy of the subunit if top managers liked or in favor with a high degree of decentralization. Okay, now we look at how we should calculate transfer pricing. So there are 3 types of mechanism that can be used. Number 1, if we look at the market price, so we identify or we determine the price based on the market price. we look at the market price and then we set what's supposed to be the price that will be used. Number 2, cost-based, which means we look at the cost. So we calculate the cost. Based on the cost, we identify our transfer price. And the third one is hybrid, where hybrid is actually some kind of mix between market price and cost based. Okay, and sometimes it use different types such as negotiation price or dual price. Alright, now I explain about market-based transfer prices. So as for this note, it is not available in your notes, so please take it down. Okay, please write it down. Alright, so what does it mean by market-based transfer price? It is where the managers choose to use the price of a similar products or service that is publicly available. You know, for example, it is possibly available in the if you look at the competitors, for example, they provide such information or whatever sources outside that we can find in regards to the market price, so we can use that price. Or for example, we select the external price that a subunit charges to outside customers. For example, this is also a market price. Let's say the division A, they sell products to outsiders, and at the same time division A wants to sell to division B through transfer pricing. So the price that they use between A and outsiders can be used as a market price for between the transaction between division A and division B. So that what is it mean by the market-based transfer price. In regards to market-based transfer price, the transferring products or service at the market price generally leads to optimal decision because the price is quite fair, since it is actually based on what currently applied in the industry. Okay, nevertheless, in order for us to have an optimal decision in regards to market price, 3 conditions need to be satisfied, in the sense that the market for the intermediate product is perfectly competitive. Okay, because sometimes in the market we have a problems if you look at the market, if the market is not perfect, then the price is also might be misleading. Second, the interdependencies of subunit are minimal. Okay, in the sense that for example, let's say department A want to sell it to department B, so if we use a market price, then the interdependencies is minimal. It's not that connected. It has low interdependence between one department and another. Number 3, if we use a market price, the advantage is that, you know, like there's no additional cost or benefit for the company because it is basically similar to the one that they sell to the external market. Okay, there's no additional cost or benefit to the company as a whole from buying or selling in the external market instead of transacting internally. So means that the performance for each division that had been, you know, for example, tried to supply the service or products to other department will not be affected because the price is actually similar to the price if they sell the product outside. Nevertheless, the market price, as I said before, is not always perfect. Okay, if markets are not perfectly competitive, the selling price will affect the quantity of the products that have been sold. So when the market for the intermediate good is imperfect, the transfer price must generally be set below the external market price. So this is the market price. Alright, but above the selling division variable cost. Alright, so this is the market price, this is the variable cost. So in the instance that the market is not perfect, therefore it is good to have to set the price within this, that is between market price as well as the variable cost. Okay, now we look at the cost-based transfer price. So it is useful when market price are unavailable, right? If, for example, sometimes in the case that it is difficult to get a market price, or it is possibly too costly to obtain the market price, or when the markets are not perfectly competitive, for example. Therefore, it is better for us to use cost-based transfer price. So what does it mean by cost-based transfer price? It is where top managers choose a transfer price based on the cost of producing the intermediate products. Intermediate products, as I said before, what does it mean by intermediate products? Let's say this is division A and this is division B. Division A sell the product to division B, so that is what we call, the product is that we call intermediate products. Alright? Because sometimes they sell to division B and division B need to process that and sell to the market. Okay? So this is what we call it as a intermediate products. Example of the cost of the producing that we can use for us to identify the transfer pricing. We can use full cost basis or variable cost basis. Okay, if we just look at the full cost, obviously all costs related to the production of the service or products, and variable cost, obviously if we just look at the variable cost of the products or service only. So between these two, managers generally prefer to use full cost base because they represent relevant costs for long-term decision. They facilitate external pricing based on variable and fixed costs. Is more comprehensive in terms of calculation of the cost, and they are least costly to administer because it's very straightforward. Alright, now we look at the hybrid transfer prices. So as for hybrid transfer price, is actually the between cost base as well as the market price that we already discussed before. So in this instance, for hybrid, they will take, like what will be the maximum price and what will be the minimum price. So the maximum, obviously the market price, and the minimum is the cost-based price. So the hybrid will set the price within this. It's either, like somewhere around this, between market price as well as the cost price. This hybrid can be in the forms of three. Number one is by prorating the difference between maximum and minimum transfer price, like this. For example, they can take an average between maximum or minimum price, that is between the market price as well as the cost base. And they can also use negotiated pricing. They discuss each other, and they can also use dual pricing. So we are going to look at the rest of the detail for negotiated and dual pricing after this. Alright, now we look at the negotiated transfer price. It's the price that they negotiate between subunits or a department. So subunits of a firm free to negotiate the transfer price between themselves, and then to decide whether to buy and sell internally or deal with external parties. So if they want to make the decision whether they want to sell internally or to sell outside, they can make a negotiation between one another. May or may not bear any resemblance to cost or market data. So it seems that the price might be different than the cost-based price, and it also might be different than the market price because it's a different price. Actually, it's based on negotiation. And it is often used when the market price are volatile, when the market price is, like fluctuated, the market price is not that stable. So sometimes they use this kind of mechanism, and it represents the outcome of bargaining process between the selling and buying subunits, that is, like division A and B or a different department. So it is an outcome of the discussion or negotiation between a department or subunit in the organization. Alright, so other approaches including prorating the difference between the maximum and the minimum cost-based transfer prices, which I already explained before, where they take the market price as a maximum and the minimum is the cost base, and they will set the price within this range. Okay, that is prorating the difference between maximum and minimum. And they can also use dual pricing in this hybrid style, where they use two separate transfer pricing methods to price each of the transfer from one subunit to one another. For example, let's say between this division A and B, if they sell to division B, they will use, for example, market price. But if B sell to A, then they will use cost-based price. So this is also something that can be practiced by the subunits or department in a company. Alright, now we look at the questions in regards to this topic. Azok Corporations has two divisions. The mining division makes taurine. Okay, taurine is the name of the products, which is then transferred to the metal division. So they have a mining and metal. Alright, so this product we call it as taurine, transferred to the metal. Okay, and metal will further process the taurine and they will sell to outside customers at a price of 150 per unit. The mining division is currently acquired by Azok to transfer its total yearly output of 200,000 units of taurine to the metal division at a 110 of full manufacturing cost. So Azok asks or instruct mining to transfer 200,000 units of taurine to the metal division at a 110 of the full cost. Okay, the price is 110 of the full cost. Unlimited quantities of taurine can be purchased and sold on the outside market. Okay, so taurine is also, besides of they produce taurine, these products also available in the market. Alright, in a large quantity you can buy and you can also sold. Alright, of the value is 90 per unit. Okay, the following table gives the manufacturing cost per unit in the mining and metal divisions for 2017. Alright, so this is the information for mining and this is the information for metal. Direct material cost is 12.6, direct manufacturing labor 16.20, variable manufacturing overhead is 8 and 15. Other information includes the fixed manufacturing overhead cost 24 and 10, and total manufacturing cost per unit is 60 and 51. Calculate the operating income. So as usual, this type of question they will ask you to calculate the operating income for the mining and metal division for 200 units of the taurine transferred under the following transfer price method, that is market price, and secondly is if they use 110 of full manufacturing cost as instructed by the Azok Corporation. Alright, so the market price is obviously the 90. Okay, this is 90 because it can be purchased and sold on the outside market for a market of 90 per unit. Second, which transfer pricing method does the manager of the mining division prefer? Which arguments might he make to support this method? So which one actually he prefer, whether it is market price or the full manufacturing cost? Alright, now we look at the solution for this question 1. We are going to calculate the operating income for mining division. So if you look at the two methods that has been instructed for us to calculate, for method A, internal transfers at the market price, while for market B, internal transfers at the 100% of the full cost. Okay, so we are going to look at the mining division first, and after that we are going to calculate for the operating income for metal division. For mining division, the revenues, if we use method A, the market price is obviously 90. Okay, so it is also based on the question here. Alright, the market price is 90 times with 200,000 units, then this is the revenues. And as for method B, the method is where we will use 100% of the full cost. If we look at the total cost, it's actually 60. Okay, so total manufacturing cost per unit for this mining division is 60, means that if it is 60 times 110%, then obviously we can get 66. Okay, so 66 times with 200,000, then the revenue is 13,200,000. As we can see from here, it is much higher compared to, you know, like if they use this transfer price at the 110% of the full cost. The division variable cost for mining, right, is this is for variable cost, so we are going to add 12, 16 and 8. This is the variable cost, and we can get here 36 times with 200,000, so we can get here the total variable cost if we use method A is this and similar with this. All right. And in regards to fixed costs, the fixed cost is 24 per unit. Okay, so times with 200,000, so for both we will have a similar cost of fixed costs. And the total division cost, we add them all and we can get 12 million for both division. And in regards to the operating income, obviously revenue minus all the variable cost and fixed cost, and we can see that this is for mining division. The operating income, if we use market price, is 6 million, and if we use 110 of the manufacturing cost, we can get 1,200,000. Obviously this one market price seems to be favorable because it will give higher operating income than if we use 110% of the manufacturing costs. All right, now we look at the question. The next is about metal division. So for metal division, the revenue is 150 times with 200,000. This is the price when they sell it outside. Okay, because metal division sold the customers at a price of 150 per unit. So this is the price, 150 times with 200,000. So we can get this figure for metal division's revenue. Now we look at the cost. In terms of cost, as for metal division, since it will have a transfer pricing from mining division, so we will have what we call a cost for the transferred in. Okay, so this cost for transfer in 90, this is referring to the transfer pricing with the mining. All right, so this is actually referring to the transaction between metal and mining. So 90, that is the market price for taurine, and 66 is actually 110 of the cost. Okay, times with 200,000, so this is the figure for transferred in price from mining division. Next, as usual, we will have a division variable cost. As for metal, the variable cost is 41. 6 plus 20 plus 15. All right, 6 plus 20 plus 15, that is basically the variable cost. So this is the figure. Next, we will have a division fixed cost. Fixed cost, if you look at the questions, it is 10 ringgit for $10 for metal division. It is here. Okay, times with 200,000, so this is the figure, and total division cost is this figure, and we have to minus this cost, right? Revenue minus this cost, then we can get the division operating income of 1,800,000 if they use A or market price, and if they use B, the division income is 6,600,000 in this case. Okay, so it seems that if we use 100% cost, the operating income for metal will be much higher than the operating income in the if they use market price. So as for this, the manager of the mining division, as in the question 2, will obviously wants to use market price, okay? Because in the mining division, if you look at the mining division's operating income, if they use market price, it is much higher compared to if they use 100% of the manufacturing cost. So obviously it will choose, this market price, because it will give 6 million operating income rather than just 1.2 million of the operating income if they use 110 market price. So obviously for mining division, it will ask for competitive market price rather than use 100% of the manufacturing cost. Okay, and using this market price for transfers in this condition, it will lead to goal congruence, and division managers acting in their own best interest make decisions that also best interest in the company as a whole. Alright, if we look at this, why basically mining division have to use competitive markets? Besides of it will increase their operating incomes to 6 million as we have looked before, it will also affect on other things. For example, let's say if they use the 110 price, what does it mean? Means that the operating income will be lower. And as for this department, it will not going to be fair for the worker for this department, because it will be seen as if that they are not performing well. If they use 110 price, then obviously in terms of performance, we can see that their operating income is low. So it will also affect the performance of the department mining. Alright, it can be seen as if that is not fair and it will give them very low performance, but actually it's not their fault. Alright. Number 2, it will also affect the bonus of the employee in that particular department. Because if the operating income is low, the salary also will be low, the bonus also will be low, because as if that department is not performing well. Other than that, it will also affect the motivation of the employee at that particular department. If, for example, at the end of the day, we present that, the operating income is just 1.2 million, but the effort that they put in actually high, because they also have to, come up with the production on time, etc., where they are supposed to get 6 million actually. So this will actually reduce their motivation, and it will affect their behavior in the sense that possibly in future they are not willing to work hard, or it will cause some kind of a conflict in the organization itself. So that's why for the betterment, it is good if mining managers, they choose market price rather than 110 manufacturing costs.